Who you evaluate also depends on what you want to measure. Technically speaking, there are two measures of a program or treatment: the average treatment effect on the treated and the intention to treat effect. The average treatment effect on the treated is the technical term for the effect of the program on those people who were selected to participate, were willing to participate, and were willing and able to complete the program. In other words, this is the measure of the program for the actual clients who enroll in the program and who successfully complete it. So basically, the effect of the program when it's working perfectly. The intention to treat measure, on the other hand, includes people who were offered the program but weren't interested, as well as those who didn't follow through and complete it, for whatever reason. You might be more interested in this measure if, for example, you want to know how cost-effective a program is. For every crown spent, what's the average effect, including the money spent on those who didn't actually use services as intended? One measure isn't necessarily better than the other. It just depends on the information you're after. Some programs will also have spillover effects, which you'll be interested in measuring. Spillover effects are the effects of the program on other members of the community who come into contact with program participants but are not directly involved. It's important to think about spillover effects when you choose the control and treatment groups. If you expect spillover effects, you'll want to choose a control group that won't be influenced by program participants, for example, who live in another village. Otherwise, it will look like the program didn't work when in fact it did. Measuring spillover effects would also be taken into account when you evaluate the cost-effectiveness of a project. Even though you only spend money on clients, there are benefits realized by the community at large. For example, a farmer field school doesn't just affect direct participants, but members of the community at large. Since we'd expect this spillover effect, we'd be best off comparing outcomes of those in communities that got the field schools with those in communities that didn't, rather than just looking at participants and non-participants within villages with the farmer field schools. We'll go over a second example. Let's consider an in-kind donation or real gift program. Here, we probably wouldn't expect to see many spillover effects. If the livestock are given to farmers prepared to take care of them, we also would not expect anyone to not complete the program. So, we're after the average treatment effect on the treated. Here, we'd pick a comparison group that's as similar as possible to the clients, who could be from the same villages, and measure household consumption at the beginning of the program as well as after a year or so, by which time we'd expect to see some changes. We would then compare the change in outcomes both across time and between the treatment and control groups. The difference would be the average treatment effect. Next, we consider how to choose a comparison group and who is similar enough for comparing to those households that receive livestock. What if we just pick people selected to receive livestock and their neighbors? Why is this a bad strategy? Obviously, if the poorest people are chosen to receive livestock, then we shouldn't be surprised if they remain poorer when we collect data. Moreover, households with different income levels might respond differently to changes in the economy or in the environment, and this will not have anything to do with the program. So, our goal is to select the most similar group as possible. Maybe the program only operated in some villages, and this was for some reason unrelated to average income. If these villages have similar economic and environmental conditions, we can consider comparing people from these villages both before and after the program. It is also possible that households in some areas might receive livestock before those in other areas. If possible, the timing of implementation can be randomized. Finally, why can't we just look at the same set of individuals both before and after they receive goods or services as a result of the program and evaluate the program in that way? Let's go back to the example of a farmer field school. Let's say you just simply survey people in a village before the program, then come back a bit after the program has finished and conduct another survey. You find that people's consumption is higher, and then conclude that the program worked. Well, there might be a few things going on here. Crop yields fluctuate pretty drastically anyway, so it could just be that the baseline year was particularly low. Or maybe other programs operating in the same village made farmers more productive for other reasons that are totally unrelated to the field schools. Finally, maybe crop yields have been steadily increasing over time due to improved irrigation, better seed varieties, etc. If this is the case, each year in a period might be higher than the previous, regardless of the intervention. In following sections, we'll discuss these issues in more detail, including strategies for selecting a proper comparison group.